on the site, the rules, the source code itself. And mediation says that this whole activity, this development activity, is kind of organized by the platform versus a team.
Software structure.
Yeah, but it's kind of a broader concept.
Well, because there's rules involved, if you buy into the rules, you act a certain way in the software.
Right,
You see what
right,
I mean? That
yes,
type of
right,
thing.
right. I
And
mean,
also pop culture. Sorry. Okay.
yeah, you're getting, okay.
Let him finish that.
The contrast would be teams are organizational mediated.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, organization versus platform.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So operationally, before we had this mystery of the chaos and how can all this chaotic activity be put together with a single useful software. But if you think about it, that's what the host platform does. It allows these independent activities in this apparently chaotic process to actually result in useful, sophisticated software. And if you want to see how that happens, you dig into software modularity and documentation and project rules, and that's for further research. But my point is, it's all about the platform. And if you're thinking in terms of an organizational kind of mediation, like in a team, it seems impossible. That's why it's such a different and fundamental, important principle of open source. Economic mystery, it even addresses that in the fact that the host platform can accommodate inputs from a wide range of individuals that have all different kinds of motivations. And the studies have shown that. There's no one single motivation. You have people with all kinds of needs. Some want to have fun, some want to build their skills, some, So all those people can have their efforts focused into a single output that has sometimes significant economic value with this host platform. Without such a host platform, this would be a set of unaffiliated individuals who could not really get together and do that. If you look at teams, what happens in teams is you have the financial incentive. Why do people join teams and organizations? Many reasons, but basically because they're paid to do it. So in organizations, it is the financial incentive that brings everybody together. Here, this host platform idea allows these many different non-financial motivations to be kind of collected together and their efforts focused into an economic production effort. And that, I think, is part of addressing this economic effort. So contributions to theory, we've suggested a new social network theory for open source software development. We've added to the success literature of open source. I think we've also, in some respects, added to team effectiveness literature. We viewed open source as a kind of team. And in fact, maybe there are some teams that have characteristics of open source, maybe virtual teams, maybe autonomous teams, self-managed teams. So this might open up some additional discussion that can go on in team effectiveness literature. And then more broadly, we've identified what appears to be a significant exception to very well-accepted theories of social capital and indebtedness. That say, typically closure is good and bridging is good. And so we feel we're contributing also to the broader social network theory literature. In terms of practice, of course, this can provide guidance to administrators and sponsors of open source projects, having a better understanding of the social network structures that matter and don't matter, what they are. The administrator can try to move at least in that direction to improve the structure. Actually, because of the nature of social network analytical methods, these can actually be converted into metrics that could use existing public forum data that's already there. So basically, these projects, SourceForge can start putting a couple of bugs on each project that says, group density, core density. So you can actually see from literally minute to minute how those density measures are going, and administrators and even the whole community might be able to see, wow, we're going in the right direction, but if you see density going up, it's like, well, here's the problem. So you can even implement that in terms of a practical metric. And then more broadly, as I said earlier, the speculation about extending open source has been extensive, but it's been abstract. And we think this is beginning to put some concrete suggestions that say that we think platform mediation might be a very important factor in defining what this open source model is. And if so, that's going to help us now to begin to extend these methods and principles beyond the domain of software. As far as future research directions, we We should try to generalize the results, first of all, based on the study population. For example, would these results apply to more mature projects? Do they apply to corporate-sponsored projects? We also think we should attempt to replicate this deviation from social network theory using other research methods. So let's look at it from a different perspective. Maybe do a case study, intensive field research to see if we're seeing the same kind of pattern that low closure leads to high success. Maybe we can find some missing conversational links that shed some light on this. So we think some other methods might be appropriate there. And then regarding this idea of platform mediation, we certainly can begin to look at both current and potential applications. For example, software, of course, is already existing. It's likely that knowledge repositories like the Wikipedia probably use open source methods. And we can probably pretty easily show how the wiki platform mediates the Wikipedia activities. And we might be able to extend that idea even in the area of science, where you have situations like the Human Genome Project involved kind of the platform that contained the work product, the genome that was being, the genome data that was being analyzed by all the researchers. So in some respects, we think we're beginning to see platform mediation in some of these areas. But as is the case with any kind of radically new development, we think this is. I mean, look how far it's deviated from all these accepted theories, how far it's deviated from team development, which is the way we develop things in today's society. If you want to create something in a group, you organize a team. So the fact that this is so fundamentally different, typically society takes some time to recognize these kind of very disruptive changes and new processes and new ideas. And I suspect we're at the very early stages of that. And we're just beginning to see the adaptation to it, and the areas that we think that this might go would be in innovation, for example, product designs, representing designs digitally and develop those jointly, further advances in science, and even in education. And we've certainly spent a lot of time, and Professor Lee and I are very interested in, for example, creating open source e-learning modules. To what extent could repositories of learning modules be created, either in general or maybe specific to certain cultural groups and so forth. So there's really a wide range of applications of platform mediation idea. More specifically, I think we'd like to start with maybe a comparative study of something like Apache, which is an open source project, and Wikipedia. And maybe look at the platforms in both cases and say, well, what's similar and what's different? And I think that might begin to help us to get the outlines for this platform idea. What is the platform? And then what I think has a lot of potential is doing design research studies in which you would investigate different kinds of platform designs and the effect that they have on the nature and the success of the community that emerges. Because really to this point, the kinds of platforms that have been developed have pretty much been done in an ad hoc way. It's kind of accidental that open source came about and even Wikipedia came about. And if we can recognize the importance of platform mediation, maybe now we can really begin to systematically study platform designs and see, all right, how do they affect community results and success? So with that, I'll end the presentation and we'll open up for questions and discussion. Very good.
We will hold on pause for
At this point, save it for the end, right? Save it for the end. I suggest we go around. I'm going to hold off till the very end, so Devin, is it okay for Jimmy?
So can we go back to slide 20? So basically what you're saying here is that you think the platform being a technology where obviously you put all your stuff in place and have the technology be enabling everything to happen on the spot and all work together as to the end. Because they're committed to the right place and everybody follows the rules and resources. Okay. Is it necessary or sufficient?
For that to happen?
Yeah.
I think it's necessary. Repeat the question. So the question is, you know, you've seen the platform and how it's important for this activity to go on, but is it necessary or sufficient? vote. And my answer is, I think it's necessary, but it's not sufficient.
What do we think that